Is Jackson and Voss a better combination than Jackson and Darcy, with Jackson mainly playing in the forward line? Your thoughts for a start?
I go back to this, Duck. If you go, do you want to use 2021 as the go-to in terms of like games played? Because that's really when he starts there. So he plays 21 games in 2021.
Who's this, Darcy or Jackson?
Darcy.
Yep.
21 games in 2022. Then he plays 15 in 23, 12 in 24, and he's currently on 5.
Yeah, so games played.
Games played is decreasing.
Yep.
So I think, first, my statement is that I think Darcy is a victim of circumstance at this point in time, as in his injuries have led to a situation where he is underprepared to play AFL football at this point in time. And when I say that, his fitness isn't there, and it just isn't. And anyone says that it is clearly wrong, because I think he needs to really build a base for being able to play what has certainly become a more up-tempo style of football in the AFL. And sort of gone are the days where you could have really just that lumbering ruckman and, you know, bigger body, and then just sort of moving from contest to contest, particularly when the ball is being pinged from one end to the other really quickly, when the critical element is not just the taps and taps to advantage, it's the ability to follow up. And so the en vogue, if you will, for ruckman is not only to be able to be skilled at your craft in terms of rucking, but also being able to follow up, which for Darcy is pretty hard, because, you know, buttering up and going to second and third efforts, that's something that Jackson excels in. And he's an absolute clearance beast in that regard. He'll follow up his work, and he's just like a plough, mate. Get that harvester out. He's just clearing out space, if you know what I'm saying. And I think Darcy has quickly had to change a couple of things. One, he's significantly dropped weight, and that has then changed how he normally plays the game, and he's trying to adjust to that. Plus, he needs to, because he's coming from a low fitness base because of the injuries that he's got, he's now trying to catch up there, and he's changing in terms of the actual style of game and what we're expecting of him. I just think that we probably jumped the gun too soon in bringing him back, even though I understand where Jale was coming from. He wasn't happy with how Reedy came in, and, you know, he wanted to get Darcy in as soon as possible, and Jackson was, you know, all that sort of stuff, injured, da-da-da. But AFL right now is so tied to fitness levels and that ability to just gut run and continually go to second and third efforts, and that's not a strength of Darcy's at the moment. Now, do I think he can get there? I don't know. I think the injuries have taken a real toll on him. He's 27 this year, Duck. I think it's going to be interesting to see if he can develop into that, because we've got someone who has proven that he can carry the ruck load, and we've got two individuals in both Voss, who, without going into too much detail because it'll come up in listeners' questions, is now becoming the cult favourite down at Freo.
Yeah.
We've got both Voss and McDonald, who are more than serviceable in the ruck and are, more importantly, impactful forward of centre. And I think that's where Darcy has sort of lost his flavour amongst probably a lot of pundits, because if he's not rucking, is he creating scoring opportunities forward to centre, like in that forward line? The answer is no. So therefore, in the team, he has to be the number one ruckman, which therefore relegates, if you will, Jackson to limited opportunities at centre bounces or whatever. And then he's sort of now being, I think he's a much better ruckman than he is a forward. It's not that I don't think he's a good forward, but I think it's too tall when we have those guys playing.
Yeah.
And can I just ask you on that, don't you think that we play a lot better in the team makeup based on the squad that we had out there on the weekend?
Yeah, and I think it's finally we've got it right in terms of and I heard, I think it might have been Duff or Craig O'Donoghue talk about this on the Duff show this morning, that it was actually Cod, and I'll give Cod a bit of praise because there's two things he said I really loved. Number one was you can't play 8 big men. So we're playing 3 big guys in the forward line, 3 big guys in the back line, and then 2 ruckmen. And you just can't do that. And whether if if you are, like, one of those guys has to be a sub, and you don't want that as well. So I think realistically, you've got to drop someone out of the forward line, whether that's Voss or a Miss, I think, are probably the two guys that are. But I think a Miss is, like, you got to keep a Miss in. So, and Voss is doing his job. He's doing a fairly solid job, you know. So I thought it was the best balance we had, because, like we said last week or a couple of weeks ago, we went too tall in the back line for a start, and then we went too tall in the forward line, and now we've kind of found this balance where
we went full Freo, didn't we?
We went, never go full Freo.
Never go.
Yeah. So I think as well, what Cod suggested, and I'd love your thoughts on this, is that rather than going back and playing at Waffle, and we did have some listeners' questions on this, should Darcy maybe have a block, a mini preseason, go back, don't play any Waffle, because we got Reedy in the Waffle. He's doing a pretty good job. And essentially, if Darcy goes back to the Waffle, Reedy becomes a second ruckman, then all of a sudden you got like the likes of Nichols and Riddle going back and playing Waffle reserves. So it doesn't really work. So is it worth giving Darcy a block off until after the bye and just saying, mate, you're just going to do running, you're going to get your body right. You know, you've come back a little bit earlier than what we'd hoped. And I think really you're right there, Oz. They wanted to bring him back, I think, 2 weeks later, but they just couldn't afford, given where we were in the season, the fact that we had lost games, and, you know, we weren't, if we were 4-0 going into, you know, or 3-0 going into the Richmond game, I think Reedy would apply.
Yeah.
You know, but instead we're 1-2, we're behind the ledger. All right, we've got to get Darcy in because we've got to win games. I didn't realise he was 27, man. That's a bit of a tough summer, given that, you know, we've got...
Well, technically he's 26 and 300 days or something like that.
Given we've got him signed up for the next, until 2030, I don't know about that contract, mate. But that's something we can talk about as well. But I think as well as, should he do this block of training, or should he be playing at Peel? That's my question to you. Or should he be playing AFL? What would you do? Well, there's your 3 options.
I wouldn't be putting him in the Waffle. And I'll tell you why. You know what you're going to get skill-wise from Darcy. It's not his skill that's an issue at the moment, even though I said he's got to try and change a couple of things. It's just the manner that how he plays as opposed to the skills that he has, because he's a good contested mark. He's got great hands. He's a great kick for goal. But I think the issue right now is his fitness. It's not, and getting him right. It's not he's not taking marks, or it's not that he's not getting hit outs, or he can't find the footy or anything like that. It's more about his block of fitness. And plus that way you can probably monitor closely that block, and you're not so beholden to things like breaks and, you know, whether you got 5-day breaks, 6-day breaks, or whatever it is. And then you can monitor that as opposed to the Waffle. I wouldn't want to see him go through the Waffle. I don't think you're going to get much out of that.
Yeah.
Would you agree?
Yeah, I actually never thought of it before I heard Cod say it, but I think it's a great idea. Give him a month, mini preseason. You're just coming in, you're running, you're lifting weights, you're getting bigger, you're getting confidence.
Paddy Dangerfield.
And away you go.
It's the Paddy Dangerfield.
I think as well, I was like, look, we want Darcy to succeed as much as anyone else. This is the thing on the show. We always want our players to succeed. We never want our players not to succeed. We want him back to the levels he was in 2021 when he won the Doig medal. And when he's averaging 16 and a half disposals a game, he's had 24 shots on goal and kicked 12 goals, 12. He's averaging 28 hit-outs a game. He's averaging 4.5 marks a game, 4.5 clearances a game, and 3 tackles a game. Like, that's the kind of guy that you want. Not the guy who played essentially this year so far, who hasn't cracked 10 disposals yet. Yeah, he's had a couple of games where his tackling's been okay. His hit-outs aren't great. You know, he had one game where he got 2 games where he's got above 30, but the rest are in those mid to low 20s. So, you know, it's really important that we put the faith back in Darcy to get strong, get fit, get back into it, and away we go. Otherwise, I think the thing that we've got to talk about is Jackson has come out, apparently, or this may be one of the reasons why he wants to get traded, is that he wants to be the number 1 ruckman. So I was very vocal on Twitter. It was me on Twitter that said, if Jackson wants to be the number 1 ruckman, like, get rid of Darcy. I think that is as cut and dry as there is. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, if the hard thing is we don't know. If that was true, and the sticking point in a conversation was, I want to be the number 1 ruckman, you make him the number 1 ruckman.
Yeah. I think you cannot, like, and Champion Data stats back it up. When he plays as the number one ruckman, he averages 115 champion data points, which I don't know what the hell that means. When he doesn't play, he averages 85.5. He hasn't really set the world on fire as your forward/ruck. He's more of a ruck/forward. I know that sounds weird, but predominantly ruck who can play forward, not a predominant forward who can play in the ruck.
Yep.
So I think realistically, what would be, let's say Darcy's deal is, I don't know, we've got no idea what the Darcy deal is. It sounds like it's 800,000 for the next 4 years until 2030. Are you willing, like Collingwood did, cut your losses on Grundy and cop some of that? And are you potentially like what? Because you're going to get nothing back in terms of a draft pick. Yes. I think you may have to pay a draft pick.
I think like if you sometimes you can become so beholden to that contract that it can influence how your team sets up, and you just got to be careful. Like, is that the best? Just because you're on that, do you have to play that person? Well, sometimes you just have to eat the salary. Sometimes you just have to eat the salary. Yeah. I'm not saying that that's the case here, but I don't know.
Who knows?